There is a bond that transcends the veil of death, the link between mother and child. And when that bond survives time, grief, and even earthly forgetfulness, what does it truly mean? Few know that the first psychographed work by Chico Xavier was written by his own mother, already deceased. And more than offering comfort, these spiritual letters unveiled an invisible scenario where maternal love intertwines with trials, renunciations, and a grand destiny. Did her presence strengthen or destabilize him? Was Maria João de Deus an angel in his journey or a weight that the invisible world had to balance? Get ready to uncover forgotten secrets, touching passages, and rare revelations about Chico Xavier and the woman who birthed him, in body and in mission. Welcome to the AI Spirit Channel. It all begins with the early passing of Maria João de Deus, when Chico Xavier was only 5 years old. The pain of that separation marked his childhood, but what few know is that the bond was never severed. Years later, she would manifest as the spiritual author of his first book, Letters from a Dead Woman. Through these letters, psychographed by Chico, she meticulously describes the spiritual plane, her discoveries in the beyond, and deep reflections on life and reincarnation. The book is a rare testimony of the afterlife, but also an intimate portrait of a mother who, even from another dimension, followed every step of her son. Right from the first letters, her care in describing her new reality is clear, as is the intense longing she still felt for the boy she left on Earth. This subtle, yet constant affection created a vibrational field that directly influenced Chico's mediumship, a connection between worlds that carried both light and spiritual weight. His mother's presence in the invisible plane turned his childhood into a field of trials, but also of guidance. Between the lines of the messages and letters from a dead woman, Maria João de Deus reveals that upon awakening in the spiritual plane, one of her first anguishes was not being by little Francisco's side. This concern runs through the book like an invisible thread, where maternal love merges with the pain of seeing her son face life without her physical presence. On several occasions, she expresses the desire to help him, but also acknowledges the limits imposed by higher spiritual laws. This raises a delicate question. Can the spiritual bond between mother and son be so strong that it interferes with both their missions? The answer seems to come subtly, as we observe how Chico grew up surrounded by spiritual phenomena from a very young age, with visions, voices, and presences, often misunderstood by the adults around him. And, according to his own accounts, it was his mother's image that gave him strength in moments of fear and loneliness. This indicates that, although the pain of loss was profound, her spiritual presence acted as a hidden compass, gently guiding his steps even without direct intervention. As time went on, Chico Xavier became a recognized medium, but faced intense difficulties during his youth. The domestic environment with strict stepmothers and constant humiliation could have crushed his spirit, if not for something invisible that sustained him. In Letters from a Dead Woman, Maria João de Deus describes how she followed everything with extreme sensitivity, but also with the understanding that she could not interfere more than necessary. This suggests that, although her spiritual heart was tied to her son, her consciousness was elevated enough to respect the greater designs. She knew Chico's mission required trials, and that sparing him from them would weaken his destiny. However, it is clear that her energy flowed behind the scenes. She did not hinder him, nor did she coddle him. She acted as a silent guardian, inspiring inner strength. This is true spiritual motherhood, not one that removes the stones from the path, but one that sustains the spirit that must cross them. Chico Xavier's mother's influence wasn't limited to the emotional field. In various parts of the book, Maria João de Deus shares experiences she had in elevated spiritual spheres, detailing visits to colonies, observations about soul evolution, and the beauty of life after death. As she describes these dimensions, she educates the reader, but also energetically guides her own son. The content of these letters, which many see as mere reports, served as an invisible preparation tool. Maria João de Deus was creating an intuitive knowledge field, fertile ground for Chico to expand his mediumship with wisdom and security. This reinforces the idea that, even without direct interference, she acted as a silent pillar of his mission, building the understanding he would need to apply in the decades to come. She didn't hinder him. On the contrary, she offered deep spiritual codes disguised in sweet words. And in this way, she fulfilled the role of a mother on a level far beyond the physical. A mother who teaches the soul. Even acting with wisdom, Maria João de Deus still felt the pain of limitations. In one of her letters, she mentions the difficulty of restraining the urge to comfort Chico in his moments of greatest suffering. This brings us to a profound reflection. To what extent can a high-level spirit interfere in a loved one's earthly life without compromising their evolutionary process? This is one of the great spiritual lessons this case offers. The mother saw, felt, perceived everything, but she also knew that silence was often the most sublime form of love. Meanwhile, Chico became increasingly sensitive, intuitive, and strong. He grew amid adversity, but each fall seemed to better prepare the ground for the extraordinary medium he would become. And perhaps, in some way, the pain he carried was the invisible bond with his mother, functioning as a bridge between planes. Love that does not comfort but strengthens is what sustains souls destined for greatness. Over time, many Spiritist scholars have debated the impact Maria João de Deus had on Chico Xavier's mission. Some suggest her spiritual influence might have emotionally affected him too much, making him vulnerable during a difficult childhood. But those who read letters from a dead woman closely understand that she was not a possessive or controlling spirit. On the contrary, Maria shows profound respect for the path her son had to follow, even if that meant watching him suffer from afar. She positioned herself as a silent observer, a vibrational collaborator, and above all, a teacher of the soul. Their relationship went far beyond physical motherhood. It was a mission alliance, a reincarnated pact in which she prepared the spiritual plane while he sowed it on earth. That's why, far from hindering, she elevated his mission to the sacred level, acting as an invisible presence that inspired, protected, and discreetly guided him. Her physical absence became a luminous presence. And perhaps, without her, Chico Xavier would not have become exactly who he was. True presence doesn't always reveal itself in visible gestures. Sometimes, it manifests in the silence that strengthens, in the longing that uplifts, and in the love that guides even from afar. The story between Chico Xavier and his spiritual mother, Maria João de Deus, teaches us that real support isn't about shielding from pain. It's about fortifying the soul to face it with purpose. Where there is mission, there is sacrifice. And where there is true love, there is selfless surrender. May we learn to be a living presence, even in absence. Making it this far shows how much your soul seeks to connect with the invisible that sustains the visible. As a gesture of gratitude for your presence until now, I want to guide you through an exclusive practice inspired by the loving energy between Chico Xavier and his spiritual mother. First, I ask you, who do you feel silently watches over you from the other side of life? Let's begin. Close your eyes. Imagine yourself as a child sitting on a simple bench in a peaceful garden. In front of you appears a luminous figure, perhaps an ancestor, a mentor, or someone you once loved. This presence says nothing, but transmits pure love. Feel this energy surrounding your vibrational field. Now, visualize a golden thread connecting this presence's heart to yours. With each breath, this light strengthens your confidence, heals your loneliness, and reaffirms that you've never been alone. Stay in this state for a few moments. When you return, carry with you the certainty, True love always finds a way to continue, even between different worlds. If you felt this connection, it means you too carry invisible bonds with spirits who love you. To show you made it here, write in the comments, Sacred Mother. That shows us this message touched your soul. Creating this video required a deep dive into the spiritual nuances of this book and Chico's life. If this content touched you, gift us your like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who needs to feel they're not alone, even in silence. Every true absence is a disguised presence.